Hello everybody, I just went ahead and finished Ghostwire Tokyo and figured I'd go ahead and give you guys my review. It took me, according to the in-game time, about 14 hours, but I think about 2.5 hours of that was AFK. So I think it's more akin to right around like 11 hours, which I looked up how long like the average person takes and they said about 10 to 11 hours. So I think that's probably pretty accurate. And I think about 13 of the side missions in the game. Did a ton of the Torii gates and stuff like that, so I did quite a bit of the side stuff. But honestly, I wasn't really compelled to do much more than I did. But let's go ahead and get into the pros of the game first. Graphically, this game is phenomenal. Not the performance, but the actual graphics itself. You can see it here, especially if you turn on ray tracing. The reflections, like this is without ray tracing, this is just the normal reflections on high, but I did play the beginning of the game with the ray tracing and it's absolutely gorgeous, dude. From what I've heard, I've never been to Japan, but I hear it's a pretty faithful recreation of Tokyo. And from the stuff I've seen from YouTube videos and stuff like that, it looks pretty damn accurate. Maybe a little romanticized, but it's absolutely gorgeous to look at from a graphics perspective. And I'm sure if you're playing on PS5, it looks great as well. Of course, this is PC, almost everything on Ultra. And very pretty game to look at. The animations for actually attacking and all of the cool hand swiping and shit that you do, the hand seals, it's all animated phenomenally. Very smooth, really cool looking. It's definitely got a flair and an aesthetic to it that is something very unique. It's not something you'll see in a lot of other games. Another thing I love is the sound design. The actual sound of the world, like when you're walking down Shibuya and you can hear 5 or 6 different like ads going off for stores, even as we're just, you know, sitting here right next to this convenience store. You know, you can hear the music playing. The sound design is really, really good. Not the voices, but the actual sound design of the world, the sound design of the magic, of the monsters, all of that is top notch. It's really, really good. And okay, all right. As you can see, I'm playing the game in Japanese. Now, this is the first game I have ever not played in English. Everything else I've ever played, doesn't matter if it's a Japanese game or a Western game, I've always played it in English. The voice acting, though, is so bad in English, I had to do Japanese. We'll get to that in the cons, but for the pro, I'll say the Japanese voice acting is really, really good. I thought it was leagues above the English, which honestly is not that surprising, you know, because in the whole sub versus dub debate for anime, I'm typically on the sub side. It's very rare that you actually get a decent dub, and this is a situation where I would actually really recommend you guys to play through Japanese, the game in Japanese. And then in terms of the other pros, the game's fun to look at. You know, it's really cool with the animations and the particle effects and the visuals. It's really fun to look at. And that's about it. Let's get to the cons. The gameplay. I was expecting so much more from the gameplay. It's a first-person shooter. All of your attacks are projectiles. You do have a melee, but it has literally no feedback to it and doesn't seem very strong. And it's very lacking in impact. Both the magic that you're doing, all of the magic, by the way, is just really lacking in impact, other than maybe the fireball. That feels kind of good at points. I played about I think 80% of the game on hard mode. There's a harder mode than hard mode called like Tatari or something like that. I just played on the hard mode and it was terribly balanced. Everything did a ridiculous amount of damage. Everything was super tanky. I was constantly running out of ammo. And in order to get ammo in this game, you have to attack these like floating objects like this thing here, right? You have to like attack this, and those little things is ammo that it gives you. And as you can see, that's really the only one in the area here. There's not a lot, and you'll come across areas where there's fucking none of those. So if you run out of ammo, you're screwed. There's no dash in the game. It feels really weird. Like there should be a dash in the combat, but instead you're just stuck slowly walking or awkwardly sprinting around. And as a result, you kind of have to kite a lot of the tougher enemies in the game because they're so tanky. And less so of that when I swapped it down to normal for the last like 20% of the game. But still, you do have to kite enemies, which is a little bit annoying. There's a block in the game that you can do. But when you do the block, you still take a ton of damage through it. If you block right at the second you're getting hit, though, you'll do a perfect block, basically a parry, and it won't remove your HP. So it seems like they really just want you to hunker down and parry, you know, everything coming at you. But it's just not really feasible to do because some enemies will shoot 6, 7 projectiles at you, and you have to parry every single one. If you just parry the first one and block, you're probably dead because even through the shield, you're going to be taking an absurd amount of damage. Some of the attacks have barely any startup frames from enemies. They just come out really quick and are super hard to parry as a result. And overall, the combat just lacked such an impact. Once you get over the cool, you know, anime style ninjutsu Naruto shit with the hand signs and the animations being super smooth, once you get over that and you actually analyze the combat, it's really, really lackluster. Both in feedback as well as giving you tools. There's not a lot of tools in the game. You have 3 different spells, and those 3 spells have charge ups, and the charge ups are not that interesting, and that's literally it. And you can upgrade them, but when you upgrade them, it's pretty boring upgrades. It's just like, oh, you upgrade your first attack, now it'll add an extra projectile, and then an extra projectile, and oh, you could shoot it faster. And your second ability, oh, it just makes it wider, and your third ability just makes it stronger. It goes through stuff better. It's really kind of boring upgrades. I felt myself kind of bored with all of the skill trees. Like, they're almost all utility based and not that interesting. And even as you're upgrading, you're not really feeling like you're getting more powerful. The only stuff that really makes a difference is being able to use the finishers more quickly on enemies. That made the biggest impact for me, and I got to like level 22 or something like that, which is pretty high. Past the combat, the other gameplay, which is just the world and the side activities, were extremely boring. They almost all come down to just hold right click on this thing, fight these enemies, and then hold right click on this thing. And there's Torii gates, which in the presentations for the game initially in the trailers, it made it seem like when you do these Torii gates, you're gonna go through this really trippy event where the world is changing, and that doesn't happen at all. It only happens in some of the main quests and a select few of the side quests. So really what the Torii gates come down to is there's this fog that's poisonous, and you can't go through it, and in order to unlock that section of the map, you have to do a Torii gate, which is fight a bunch of enemies and then hold right click on the gate. And it's super boring, dude. It's just all of the side activities are like that too. Oh, there's like 2 million ghosts floating around. I'm not even being dramatic when I say that, by the way. I think there actually is 2 million. There's all these like floating ghosts, and what do you do to get rid of them? You walk up to them, you hold right click, and then you take them to a station to deposit. Like almost everything in the game All the side activities, they're not fun, they're not inspired, they don't take advantage of the world. You just hold right click on them. Even the like monsters or spirits or apparitions or whatever, these special little oni yokai, I suppose they're called, these special like yokai in the world, I thought that would be more interesting, hunting down those. It's literally always just follow them and then hold right click. That's what it always is. Oh, this one's flying, follow it while it's flying and then hold right click at the end. Oh, this one's walking on the ground, sneak up to it, hold right click. It is super repetitive, very uninspired, and this right here is what I'm always talking about when I'm talking about why I'm not a fan of open world games, because in an attempt to fill the game with a bunch of content, it ends up becoming diluted in quality, it becomes quantity over quality, and the side stuff just becomes uninspired and boring, and that's what this game is plagued with, and it really just makes me wish that they made a linear game and doubled down on the story and the characters, because now that we're getting into story and characters, very lacking. I didn't like a single character. I actually actively disliked Akito. KK is kind of cool. Perfect timing. Momo, be quiet. Well, they're talking. KK is actually a decent character, but Akito, super boring for me. And in fact, almost annoying at times, or actually succeeds at being annoying at times. And then the side characters as well, I didn't really like them. The overall story is a very interesting concept at the beginning. Oh, everybody's disappeared. You're the last person. What's going on? And then it turns into literally the most generic bad guy and bad guy plan ever. And it was so disappointing to see. Once you find out what the bad guy's plan is, you're like, dude, really? This has been done a million times before. It's so sad when you compare it to the genius that is Evil Within 1, and then less genius, but still very interesting, Evil Within 2. It's just disappointing, dude. It's kind of sad that, like, Tango Gameworks has fallen so low, but I suppose that's what happens when you go open world. You make that sacrifice, and the normies will love it because they'll love the extra playtime, but I don't. And like I said, English voice acting really bad. I don't recommend it at all. Change it to Japanese and save yourself. It was thoroughly disappointing. I could literally only play like an hour of it, and I was like, okay, I need to try Japanese because it's really bad. It's terrible. But yeah, I mean, other than, you know, the visuals, I don't really think there's a lot positive to this game. It hits me like there's so much missed opportunity here. They have a beautiful world with Tokyo, and unfortunately, they don't have very interesting combat. They don't have very interesting upgrades. They don't have a reason to really push you to do the side stuff. Oh, by the way, the side missions. Like I said, I did about 13 of them, and one of them was good. Literally one. Even the 3 main side quests, you get to the point in the game where it's like, oh, you won't be able to do this stuff anymore. Make sure you do these side quests. I did those too, and those were bad and boring. Almost all of them just come down to, hey, I need this thing. Go get this thing for me. And uh-oh, this thing has a spirit in it. Fight a bunch of enemies, do a seal on the thing, and then bring the thing to the spirit. Or, oh, here's this spirit, find out where they went, and you're literally just doing your scan, which I feel like every single open world game has this fucking scan now. You know, you got the Survivor sense in Dying Light, you got the Witcher sense in Witcher. Like, I feel like every single open world game is getting this stupid scan. And you're just spamming this scan, and you're following ghosts until you get to the location, and then you go and you hand in the quest, or it's done after you fight some enemies. Super boring. Only one of the side quests was cool because it was actually kind of creepy, dealing with a hoarder. That one was kind of cool. Everything else I found very boring. overall, this is the first game in a while, where I didn't enjoy it. And I started to think, as I was playing all these good games recently, and all my reviews have been, 8s and 9s. I'm like, man, am I getting soft? And am I just starting to enjoy like every game I play? And this game did a great job of bringing me back down to earth and saying, no.
世の中すべて金だよ。僕の真似。全然似てないよ。
Okay. With all of that being said, I think this game is honestly a 4 out of 5. Or 4 out of 10. Sorry. Damn, it wishes it was a 4 out of 5. I think it's a 4 out of 10. If you don't know my rating scale, 5 is average. 4 is below average. A 3 is what I would consider kind of bad. A 2 would be a bad game, and 1 is like it literally installs a Trojan on your PC and wipes your hard drive while taking all of your passwords and hacking all your accounts. Okay, this game's like a 4. It's below average. Literally, the only thing it has going for it is the world, and it lacks everything else. It lacks in the gameplay. It lacks in the side activities. It lacks in the main activities with the main story. And all it has is this world that is unfortunately teeming with possibilities, and none of them are utilized. I mean, just off the top of my head, I'm not even a game designer, but you literally, it's called Ghostwire because you have a freaking Ghostwire. And you can use it to pull you to things. Why did they not think to give you the ability to swing around Tokyo City with it like fucking Spider-Man or something? That would be sick. It would make navigation really fun. It would make wandering around the world and exploration way more fun instead of just walking everywhere and doing a weird glide. They let you create points to pull yourself to, but there's no swinging or anything like that. Yeah, just tons of missed opportunities here. Makes me really sad because I love Evil Within 1 and 2 so much. Evil Within 1 is, in my opinion, one of the most underrated horror games of all time. I adore that game. But yeah, this game was really disappointing for me. Probably one of my lowest ratings I've given. And when you consider it's a $60 game, or if you're getting it on a PS5, $70 plus tax game that has a main story that you could go through in like 9 hours, and uninspired generic side activities that are only there to really pad out your time. Disappointing, man. Definitely wouldn't recommend this. I wouldn't recommend it on sale. Listen, if it gets added to the new PlayStation Game Pass that was just announced today, all right, download it and play it. That's fine, but I wouldn't recommend this game at all. It was kind of a slog to even get through, so kind of unfortunate. Definitely a bummer for me because it looks so damn cool in the trailers. But thanks for watching. Have a fantastic rest of your day, and I'll see all of you guys in the next video, or from Streamer Rooney. Bye-bye. All right, I have to clip that. Oh yeah, did Tsunena literally never